Today we're going to be going over 5 cheap alternatives to some much more expensive fragrances. So you don't have to spend a lot to smell really good and to smell high-end. And the price ranges on these are going to be varying pretty extensively. Yeah, some of these are going to be, kind of an alternative to a $100 scent. Some maybe an alternative to a $50 scent. Some an alternative to a $200, $300, $400 scent. So we're kind of all over the board here. But one thing that does maintain consistent is that you're saving money with these options. Because a lot of what you're going to be hearing about today are things that are talked about all the time. And so these are going to give you an opportunity to smell those for less. And so I'm going to link everything down below to discounters. That's really the only way that you're going to be able to actually save money in this way, because everything on the board here is on discounters. But if you really want to save the most amount of money, you're going to want to be shopping there. We're going to get things kicked off with Antonio Banderas, the Icon. It's Eau de Toilette. So at this point, I think they are up to an elixir. EDT, EDP, Parfum, and then I think an elixir, and maybe even one more. But I know they have quite a few. And this one is where it all started. And this is very, very similar to Dior Sauvage Eau de Toilette, which needs no introduction, and it is pretty heavily cloned at this point. You know, it's just something that popular. People are going to be wanting to get in on it. And so there are options out there. I do think, and especially for the money, this is the best you can get. Because Sauvage Eau de Toilette, you know, it's a $100 scent. Maybe sometimes it'll dip under that on discounters. You can get testers for a bit less as well, but you know, $80 to $100 typically. There are some alternatives out there that are $50, $60-ish dollars, right? Which is still some savings, not huge. This is about $20. So it's one of the most affordable alternatives, but I also think it's one of the best as well. It has really good quality for such a low price. It's got good performance, and it just gets that peppery bergamot ambroxan combination down very, very close to Sauvage. And I think it's a great scent overall. I really like it. One thing I always like to point out, the atomizer on this is well above average for scents in this price range. I mean, it's got nice satisfying click to it, really nice even cloud. Man, that stuff, it smells great. Actually is a little bit more smooth than Sauvage Eau de Toilette. Maybe not quite to the level of the Eau de Parfum. And there are going to be some differences, like a little bit more of a lavender focus on this one, I find. And so, you know, ultimately though, it is getting you very close to Sauvage EDT, just at a fraction of the cost. We're going to go over to Dumont Nitro Red up next. This stuff is great. I really, really like it. And what this is going to do is get you close to a bunch of different things, okay? It's going to get you into the Invictus, Rasasi Howis, a little bit of Y Live DNA, right? And a few others that you could draw inspiration from, or more so, I guess, draw a connection to, right? Because this smells similar to a lot of other things, popular releases that you've smelled before. And so it's kind of one of those hybrid clones like I've talked about, where it covers a wide range of things, not necessarily cloning one thing in particular, just kind of swinging the bat and hitting a few different things at once. It's kind of what they're doing here, but with their own twist as well. And that mainly being the watermelon note. And it smells amazing. You really don't get melon or watermelon all that often in men's fragrances, at least. And so every time it's used to the point where you can actually smell it, it immediately makes it stand out. You know, you still get the watery notes and some of like the apple, bergamot, bunch of ambroxan, and some of the aromatic like lavender sage notes. You still get all of that in here. A lot of that is what's tying it back into a lot of those other popular releases, but it does have that one particular type of fruity note that makes it stand out. So it's a really nice twist on this very popular DNA. And, you know, at the end of the day, people are going to be saying, you know, Invictus, Rasasi Howis, things like that, they're not all that expensive to begin with. And you're right, they're not. The original Invictus has worked its way down in price a lot over the years. Rasasi Howis is anywhere from $40 to $50. This one still does come in below those, okay? So I've seen it for as low as $29 to $35. Maybe I've even seen it less than 30. I think I've seen it on clearance before for a bit under that, just depends, right? I think it's usually consistently in stock for 35-ish, will dip below that occasionally. But ultimately, no matter what way you're cutting it, it comes in at a lower price than those others. And because it smells like a combination of a bunch of those, like there's no way you could go out and buy all of those others that this smells similar to and equal out to a price of the same as this. So, you know, because it combines all that, it actually works out to be a really good deal. I think it's a good release, a good performer. It's an amazing complement puller. This is the type of thing that people just go crazy for, so it's worth checking out. We're gonna roll into Bulgari Man Wood Essence up next. So the Bulgari Man lineup is growing year by year, and they've got a few really, really good ones and a few that are not so exciting. Like, I'm not really the biggest fan of Rain and what's the other one? There was another newer one as well. Gosh, I can't even remember it. Nothing necessarily wrong with them, but I do think releases like Wood Essence, Wood Neroli, and even Terra Essence are better and a bit more interesting. And so I find a decent comparison between Wood Essence and a very expensive Tom Ford private blend. It's Italian Cypress. So I don't know the full state of this one at this moment. I am not sure if it's discontinued. I don't know if they're rolling it into a different line. I don't know, okay? Maybe I should have looked into it before, but regardless, there is a similarity between the two, and there is obviously a big difference in price, being that this is going to be into the multiple hundreds for a 50 ml, and then the Bulgari is, I think, around $50 to $60. And so it does do kind of what is in the name of both of these, kind of focusing on woods and cypress. Yeah, I guess the name isn't necessarily similar, but just giving you a general idea, focusing on aromatic woods, essentially. And that's kind of what you're getting here. It's a very mature and classy smell. A lot of this is going against the grain as far as what new releases are being like today. I really like this stuff. I think it's great. You know, it's just something to kind of change things up and give you a different type of style, because most people out there aren't going to be wearing this type of thing. I will say my only gripe with these Bulgari Man releases is the atomizer. You just saw it there, very narrow, could use some improvement. But other than that, the scent is great, the quality, the performance, everything about this one is great. It's a nice alternative to the Tom Ford. I wouldn't call it a clone, okay? There are some differences, but definitely pretty similar. Okay, now let's move into Manera Instant Crush. It's a fantastic release that is pretty popular, not as quite as popular as something like the original Cedrat Boise or even Red Tobacco, Oud Lemon Mint, but it's up there. It's pretty close. I mean, this one definitely got a lot of hype when it first came out because it was a very well-timed release, I would say. So they knew what they were doing there. And at this point, you know, it's died down a little bit. I don't think it's going to have the same type of longevity as far as popularity and hype like Cedrat and Red Tobacco, but it is still a really good release. So you're probably asking, well, why was it such a good, well-timed release? Well, because it smells a lot like Maison Francis Kurkdjian Baccarat Rouge 540 Eau de Parfum. And around the time that they released Instant Crush, this was at peak performance as far as hype is concerned. Like, it was at maximum capacity. It was all over the place. People were just, you know, going left and right, pulling all the strings they could to get their hands on a sample or a bottle or to just try it. Now, at this point, the market is littered with clones of BR540. But it wasn't like that when this first came out and when that initial hype wave came through. You couldn't just go out and buy a $20 or $30 clone. You could only smell the real thing, essentially. But then they started to roll out some clones. Instant Crush is probably not what I would consider to be a clone, but it is very similar. And so that was something that a lot of people were really into because of the big price difference, right? The Instant Crush is retailing for $180. You could get it for around $100 or sometimes a bit under $100. BR540 is just crazy expensive, and you can get the 70 ml bottle that's more affordable, big 200 ml for a lot. So yeah, it's expensive stuff. Off the top of my head, I don't know what this goes for right now. I haven't looked because I haven't been in the market for it. It's a very specific thing, but I know it's in the several $100 range. And to be fair, I love the scent DNA. It's something unique, something different, woody, transparent, light, but also sweet at the same time. It's very bizarre. An Instant Crush, it does that, but it does have more sweetness and some oud in here as well. So, and a lot of saffron. And I just find that it's a bit more heavy and it's a bit easier to perceive. You know, sometimes BR540, it is so light and wispy and airy that people go nose blind to it quickly, and then that kind of throws people off because you think, I just spent all this money and it only lasts on my skin for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, and people are furious, rightfully so, right? But that's not the case. It is a beast mode performer, but it will cause nose blindness or olfactory fatigue pretty easily and sometimes pretty quickly depending on the person. So something to keep in mind. You don't get that as much with Instant Crush because it has a bunch of other supporting heavier notes to give you something to really pick up on. We're going to wrap this one up with, make sure I get this right, Perry Ellis 360 Red, a $20 cheapie that has been around for a while. And you know what? I was revisiting this one when I was making this video. Wow, still good, still amazing, still worth a pickup. It's one of those things where you're probably not gonna go onto FragranceNet and throw in this bottle into the cart by itself and check out because 20 bucks and you're gonna be spending whatever it is, $6 or $7 shipping, and you know, it probably doesn't feel right. You're not just gonna go buy this by itself. This is the perfect type of thing that you throw into your cart when you've got another bigger order going and just toss it in at the end and go check out, and you end up with it. You know, it's just a nice little add-on. It could easily be used as an air freshener or something to just freshen up your beach towels or something, or just a scent to keep in your car because it's cheap and it might go bad, but who cares? And so what does it smell like? Well, it smells almost spot on to Acqua di Gio Eau de Toilette, which at this point I don't think is worth buying. You know, I'll say it. I just don't think it is. There might be some very specific reasons, like nostalgia reasons, where that's totally understandable, right? If you've been wearing it since high school or whatever it is and you still just want to keep wearing it, of course buy it, right? But for most people who are getting into the hobby or just starting out, I don't see it necessary to spend that much money on it when you could spend a little bit more and get an Acqua di Gio flanker like the Parfum or Profondo Night or Profondo Parfum or the Eau de Parfum, basically any other flanker besides the Eau de Toilette. Or you could spend about $20 and get 360 Red, which is close, very close, but with a bit of a cinnamon spicy kick. So it's like a spicy Acqua di Gio, which I love, you know. For the most part, all of these kind of offer a twist. And so that's why this video isn't titled like clones, right? Because I'm not considering these to be clones. As you look throughout all of these here, each one truly is an alternative where they're just offering you a different take on a very popular DNA, not a clone. There are clones of all of these pretty much, right? But it's not what we're looking for. So these kind of change it up and give you some variety. And, you know, if you've smelled Acqua di Gio for years and years and years, 360 Red is a nice little twist on it. You know, it's just something to kind of bring the fire back, so to speak. That's pretty much going to do it for me, guys. Some fantastic, affordable alternatives to some more expensive designer and niche fragrances. Like I said, I'm going to link all these down below so you can pick them up. And so you can just kind of do some shopping around. Also, if you want to try some samples of designer and niche fragrances as well, head over to my website, decantcenter.com, first link. And we're adding to the website every day as far as our inventory goes. So make sure you check back if you don't see anything right now. Come back in a couple days and we're going to add more to it. We've got some of the best prices in the game. Free samples in every order, right? We're just trying to give you access to things that are just kind of hard to get otherwise as far as price. A lot of things, designers, are becoming so cost prohibitive. It's insane. Like some of these designers are at the same price or even sometimes more expensive than some niche fragrances, especially price per milliliter. Sauvage Elixir and all the other elixirs, perfect example. And so given the fact that things are just getting more expensive, it's not going to go in the other direction. Trying to offer that to you guys. That way you know you're getting products that are authentic, right? And so something to check out if you want to try before you buy. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.